is going on, everyone? This is Miles with Windows Central Gaming, and welcome to the 20th, the big 2-0 episode of Xbox Chaturdays. Today I'm joined by the legendary Parris, and we're going to talk about all the juicy Xbox news for the week. We have the MLB The Show coming to Game Pass. We have the massive momentum that Xbox has right now. Dive a little bit into Outriders impressions, and then I'm going to play a little game with you at the end here, Parris, about what you think Xbox is going to show at E3. But before we dive into that, give the people a quick rundown of who you are, where they can find you, and why you love Xbox.
Sure. So I'm Parris Lilly, and I am a content creator. I guess that's the correct word to use, right? But been around for a while. Longtime co-host on Gamertag Radio with Danny Pena and Peter Toledo, and more recently, I've become a part of Kind of Funny. I'm co-host on the xCast over there. Part-time, I fill in whenever I can on Kind of Funny Daily and some of the other stuff that they do over there. And I talk a lot on Twitter. And why do I like Xbox? I don't know, how much time do we have in this podcast?
Take your sweet time, yeah.
Well, no, I mean to sum it up really quick. I've always just been a longtime fan of game. I'm older. I'm in my 40s, and I got to go to E3 2001. That was the first E3 I ever went to, and that's obviously when Xbox was originally come out. So I've kind of seen Xbox from the very beginning, from that buggy version of Halo Combat Evolved on the show floor to obviously where we are today, but everything in between. I've been an Xbox MVP over the years. I've just had various opportunities through a lot of the community efforts that Xbox has done over the years, which, I'm a fan. I'm just a fan of gaming overall, but I'm probably not talking to you right now if it wasn't for Xbox, just back in those early days in the mid to late 2000s. And then obviously, as I got more into content creation, it's just grown from there. But I will say right now, in the recent times with Xbox, I'm a big fan of a lot of the services and the initiatives that they've implemented here, in the past, 5 to 6 years. And I think it's made gaming better overall. And I think Xbox has a pretty bright future. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, and that's why I'm stoked to have you on today, because you're someone whose takes I really appreciate on Twitter, because they're nuanced. There's a lot of thought and care and effort put into what you say and what you present. I know it can be fun to kind of stir the pot. We're obviously an Xbox centric channel, but almost every episode I have to stress that I love gaming as a whole. I love what PlayStation is doing. I love what Nintendo's doing. And I love what Xbox is doing. And I'm never going to write off a platform when they're doing something well. And so, that's why, I see your takes on Twitter, and it makes me happy, because, a lot of people likes to instigate and, flame the console wars. But, I've been in the console space for a long time, and as I get older, I get less and less interested in kind of stoking the flames of this fire. So it's...
I mean, and look, I'm guilty of all that nonsense.
Oh, yeah, it's
too,
fun.
Over the years. I think we all are. We all like to have fun, but... I'm also aware of, as I don't know, I really just think I'm an idiot that gets on there talking to gaming, but I understand that as my presence in the gaming industry grows, the things that I say kind of do matter, kind of like Jez, where he just puts out an emoji and all of a sudden Persona 5 is coming to Game Pass. But, I do try to talk about gaming just from a logical point of view with things. Like I said, Xbox is not perfect. I mean, I try to say what's good, I try to say what's bad, and that just goes for everything. PlayStation, Nintendo, on down the line. But, the whole point of gaming is it's supposed to be inclusive and fun, right? It brings us together. We can have some amazing experiences in the gaming space together. I definitely try to steer away from all the negativity. And when I say negativity, I'm not talking about critical feedback, because critical feedback is very important. I mean, look, we just saw with Xbox Live Gold, they tried to make it $120, and everyone provided feedback. Some, a little
spicier than others. Yeah.
But the point of that is giving that critical feedback, like, hey, this isn't a good idea, and here's why. Because they are listening, and it's not just Xbox; it's all of them. They listen to our feedback, so I think that is very important to do in the space. But the silly memes, the personal attacks, and the insults and all that. I'm honestly just too old to get into that. I'd rather project the positive side of gaming. I'd rather talk about the fun things in gaming. I mean, you talk about the negative side when it's appropriate, but to just literally live in that day after day after day, I don't know, it's kind of ridiculous. It's why I try to steer away from the whole console war stuff because look, I know this is more Xbox centric, but let's just keep it real here. The past 7 to 8 years, PlayStation has absolutely been killing it with their games. I mean, they have some of the best IPs in the business are PlayStation. I absolutely adore them. I cannot wait for Ratchet and Clank to come. I can't wait for Horizon Forbidden West. Obviously, God of War, Ragnarok, all that stuff. I mean, there's so many great games there, but I don't have to put down another platform to celebrate the one that is my favorite, is the way I see it, right? I love a lot of things that Xbox is doing. I love a lot of things that Nintendo is doing. That doesn't mean I have to dwell on the negative side on the other ones, just to talk about that stuff. And I think if, as a gaming community, we can get away from that and really start celebrating this thing that we have that is gaming. I mean, it's amazing. Like, I remember playing video games in the late 70s when it was Pong and Breakout.
You had your paddle,
in combat and all that stuff, right? And it's been amazing to see where gaming has gone in the past 40 years. It's like, let's talk about that stuff. Let's celebrate that. I mean, to sit here and argue over your favorite piece of plastic is just so silly to me. I will never understand that. So I don't know. I know I'm getting a little preachy on that, and that's not the point of it. But the whole thing is, I mean, I love gaming as a whole, and I think we'd all be better off if more people could just take that approach.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of people who sadly want to just suck all the fun out of gaming, and like talking about gaming should be fun. We can point out flaws in different ecosystems. We can definitely point out flaws in people's business practices, especially when it's affecting the lives of other individuals. But generally speaking, games and playing them and discussing them should be fun. And I don't get people's obsession with kind of totally taking all the fun out of it. So
yeah,
again, you and I are kind of on the same page there, and that's why I'm excited to get into some of these topics today. Quick shout out to the 75 people hanging out with us already. We got a quick super chat from the legend, Mr. Joanna Dark. Hello, Miles and Parris. Excited to be able to enjoy today's show with you two. Parris, I'm a big fan of your content and happy you are part of the Kind of Funny xCast.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, appreciate that. We had you were in the chat with that. We had Snowbike Mike on, so now we got 2/3. We'll get Gary Witta on. We'll complete the holy xCast trinity. All right, so let's get into the first topic today, and this is one that kind of honestly came out of nowhere yesterday, and this has dominated Twitter discourse for the last 24 hours, and that's the bombshell that MLB The Show is coming day and date into Xbox Game Pass. So to kind of set the page for this, MLB The Show has historically been a PlayStation IP. It's developed by a PlayStation first-party studio and historically has been a PlayStation exclusive. And now, it was big news that MLB The Show was coming to Xbox in general. That was kind of a big deal in the industry because of the kind of brand association that people make with MLB The Show to PlayStation. And now it's coming to Xbox and it's coming into Game Pass. And PlayStation fans have to pay $70 for MLB The Show versus Xbox fans who can, in theory, play this for no additional charge if they're already subbed to Game Pass. So, Parris, what was your initial take when you saw this yesterday morning?
I mean, it was shock. I think, like everyone else, no one saw this coming. We obviously knew that MLB The Show was already coming to Xbox. We saw some of the great features like crossplay that we're going to do. So, hey, this is great. But to now put it day and date on Game Pass, nobody saw that coming. We really didn't.
No.
But it's funny, the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, should we have been surprised by that? Because think about it. Major League Baseball is the license holder for this, right? And I talked about this on the xCast, but I tried to use the analogy with Lucasfilm Games. Lucasfilm Games has the license for Star Wars and Indiana Jones. Of course, they're going to put Star Wars everywhere they possibly can. Of course, they're going to take advantage of any service that is going to get more people engaging with those games. So apply that logic to MLB. It's already on Xbox. If Microsoft is coming to them and saying, hey, here's the benefits of Game Pass, here's what we can negotiate to give you some financial incentive to put it on our service day one. And again, using simple math here, but let's just say 10 million people, if MLB The Show was still exclusive on PlayStation, 10 million people would buy it, right? But now that it's on Xbox and Game Pass, maybe let's say only 6 or 7 million people now buy it on PlayStation. But because it's on Xbox and because it's a part of the subscription service, what if 10 million people now decided to engage with the game on Xbox? You've now net gained another 10 million people. It's now 17. You now have 17 million people versus the 7 million or 10 million that would have played it on PlayStation, right? So in other words, they have more engagement with the game. That's the whole point here. They want more people playing the game. Like I said, I'm sure Microsoft is giving them some upfront financial incentive, to want to do it. They're probably getting something on the back end as well. Not to mention, they're still going to profit from all the microtransaction stuff that happens in MLB The Show if you choose to engage with it, because obviously you don't have to. But the overall point in this is getting more people engaged with the game, getting more people excited about baseball, and it has a long-term effect with now when MLB 22 comes out, maybe that number grows from 17 million to 24, who knows? But that's the whole point, getting more people playing the actual game. And that's something that Game Pass is a clear advantage for Xbox to be able to do, because it's almost a try it. It doesn't hurt to try it. That's the scenario that I look at. You'll get people that were on the fence going, I don't know if I want to spend $60 or $70 for a baseball game. Now they're I'm already subscribed to Game Pass. I'll try it. Maybe they try it. Maybe they do Road to the Show and they love it. And now they're fully engaged with it. I mean, we've already seen numbers with Game Pass for games like Sea of Thieves. The engagement has gone up since it's been on Game Pass and since it's been on Steam. Forza Horizon 4, things like that. So I always joke around and say math is undefeated, right? Numbers don't lie. So if the numbers are telling Microsoft and telling Xbox that Game Pass is having more engagement with their games, of course they're going to pass that along to third-party publishers as well to say, hey, maybe you should bring your game over here too. We'll work out a deal that benefits both of us. And then it becomes a win-win scenario for both third-party publisher and Xbox in that scenario.
Yeah, because it's interesting that MLB basically went to PlayStation and said, all right, exclusivity's done. That's not something that we want anymore. MLB The Show and our brand is too big for one platform. So you can develop it, that's cool, but it can't be a PlayStation exclusive anymore. And it's really kind of wild that Xbox took advantage of that year one. The first time MLB The Show is coming to an Xbox platform, it's launching into Xbox Game Pass, which is, we typically associate kind of PlayStation with the more aggressive, I guess, money hat moves or whatever you want to say. Right. But this is an incredibly aggressive and smart move from Xbox, because they aren't making it exclusive. They're not trying to take this away from anyone, but this is going to effectively hurt PlayStation, because you're going to have a contingent of people who are like, I have an Xbox, I have a PlayStation, I can pay $70 to get the PS5 version, or I can get Game Pass. And that is their approach, because I know people in my life, I know 4 or 5 people directly who literally buy a PlayStation for MLB The Show. That is kind of the weight that this franchise has. And I'm not the biggest sports fan. Like, I'll just say that up front. So for me personally, this isn't a huge deal. But when it comes to the widespread appeal of Xbox and the widespread appeal of growing Xbox Game Pass, this move is huge. This might be the biggest move that Xbox Game Pass has done, in my opinion. Outriders was a big deal, but let's be real. Outriders is way more niche than MLB The Show. Carries way less weight than MLB The Show. So for this caliber of a sports game, like the baseball game, to be in Game Pass day one, that is that's an aggressive move from Xbox and that team.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's an aggressive move. And like you said, you have to take it from the MLB standpoint because they're trying to grow the brand. So this is why whenever that was announced last year that it was going to basically go multi-platform. Of course it is. Why are they making it exclusive to one when they want it inclusive for everyone? They want everyone to be able to play. Because again, arguably, I'm not going to say it as a fact, but arguably, MLB The Show has been the best sports sim for over a decade. I used to be huge into Road to Show and playing, and now will fully admit I've not played it the last few years. I've just kind of fallen off playing sports games altogether. But it's just a personal choice. But I understand the appeal, and I understand exactly what you're saying. It has been a system seller for PlayStation. People will literally go buy a PlayStation just to play MLB The Show. So now with the deal that we're seeing right now, I mean, it allows people on Xbox to experience it as well. It's going to allow people to fall in love with it there. And then when you couple it with Game Pass, like I said before, you're getting people that may not have necessarily felt, well, do I really want to spend $70 on a sports game? Oh, wait, I'm already on Game Pass. I'll try it. Oh my God, this is great. Now they're engaged, and now they're, what is it? The Diamond Packs, I think they're called, right? They're starting to buy those. So again, from a publisher standpoint, from a license holder standpoint, this grows that brand for them. This gets more people playing their game, and ultimately that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and that's the kind of the beauty of Game Pass is, especially when it comes to multiplayer games that have a longer tail. It opens the door to so many more players. You can hit up your friend and say, "Hey, we're playing this. Do you want to play?" Previously, they'd be like, "I don't know. I don't feel like spending $60. I don't feel like spending $70. Like, are we going to play this?" Now it's like, "Hey, it's on Game Pass. Oh, cool. It's on Game Pass. Awesome. I'll start the download." And that's it. So multiplayer stuff, it really increases the tail. And we've seen more and more devs come out and talk about how like they've had more people playing their game because more people are playing their game through Game Pass. It's led to more people buying it on other platforms or the same platform. So it's a really smart move, and it's we were talking about this before the show, but normally deals like this I've heard about. I've had some inklings. I usually know it's coming, but MLB The Show had no idea whatsoever. This was a wild thing to drop on a Friday. Big news like this doesn't happen on Fridays typically.
No, it doesn't.
We got the MLB, what was it? The MLB commissioner who wrote the Xbox Wire post talking about it's wild. And obviously Sony is a little bit upset. I was looking at the official MLB The Show Twitter handle, and they did not mention or retweet or like or discuss Xbox Game Pass in any capacity on the official MLB The Show Twitter handle. And I think that is run by Sony San Diego. So that makes sense. They obviously, even though it says Xbox platforms in their bio, they obviously don't want you to subscribe to Game Pass because that's competition. And I'm curious to see what percentage the studio got from this Game Pass deal, or because MLB was publishing it, there is no incentive for them, so there's no financial benefit for it coming to Game Pass. I'm really curious to kind of figure out what that looks like for them, because from what I've seen, there's some vindication from the MLB The Show team regarding this whole deal.
Yeah, it's funny because I always just say, hey, I leave all that financial sorcery, on the back end up to them. I don't care because I'm a gamer. As a gamer, I just see this as being a good thing because it's going to allow more people to play and experience MLB The Show. And ultimately, that's a good thing because if we get more people hooked on it, more people, again, there's cross-play, so it's not going to matter what platform you pick it up on. That's great. It's just more engagement, it's more community involvement. There's more interaction between friends. That's just a good thing. So, like I said, I'll leave all that up to the suits. You figure out how this is financially beneficial for who and all that. I don't care. I just know it's happening, and it's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not getting a check, so at the end of the day, it's it's whatever. Exactly. I'm just more being an person invested in the industry. It's just interesting. It doesn't really affect me at the end of the day.
Totally.
And you have those people who kind of come out very vocally and talk about how Xbox Game Pass isn't sustainable, and you have people like Phil Spencer coming out and saying like, please don't worry about like our financial situation and like how we operate this. Like that doesn't affect you. Like I don't know why so many people are obsessed with that, especially when there's literally no data of any kind that suggests that that's any sort of reality.
Mm-hmm.
People assume because it's a wild deal. You look at what you get with Xbox Game Pass and you just kind of assume that this cannot be sustainable. Like, I'm getting all of these games for this price. It can't be sustainable.
Yeah, but yeah, again, I let that sorcery. I leave it up to the financial people that actually understand the numbers and how it works. But and again, I don't know. I don't want to shift the show into a direction you weren't ready to go to. But sticking on the Game Pass subject, the one thing that I'm taking out of this when MLB The Show and Outriders is I look at both of these games as a big case study for other third party publishers to pay attention to for potentially them bringing their titles to Game Pass day one as well. And the hill I'm going to die on, I could be 1,000% wrong on this. I look at EA and I look towards August and I look towards October, November, and there's two games I can see potentially day and date coming to Xbox Game Pass. One is Madden 22 for the very reasons that we're talking about MLB The Show. And the other one would be Battlefield 6. I think when I look at as a third party publisher that's coming up with this big IP that, let's just be honest, the last iteration of it, and this goes for both Madden and Battlefield, but sticking with Battlefield, the last iteration of it didn't do that well.
Didn't stick the landing.
That, right? Let's just say that. You're going up against the Goliath that is Call of Duty in the holiday window. People are already hesitant to want to spend the $60 or $70 for your next sequel. You have a lot to prove, so to speak, right? So when I think of it that way, I think, why not put Battlefield on Xbox Game Pass day one? Again, let EA and Xbox figure out the details on how it makes sense. But if it were to come to Game Pass day one, again, I'm already a subscriber, might as well give it a try kind of thing. And then you let the game itself speak for itself. It sounds like I'll probably allow myself to introduce myself, but you let the game speak for itself, right? And if it's good, people are going to stick around. They're going to engage with it. They're going to want to play the multiplayer. Now they're going to want to buy, the DLC that's coming down the road, the expansions and all that kind of stuff. And it's a win-win. It adds value to Game Pass and it helps EA promote Battlefield 6 because it's going to get more people to want to try it. So like I said, when I look at it that way, I think these Outriders obviously is another example of this, and MLB The Show, they're going to be case studies. Like, what are the numbers? What has the engagement been? And just look at Outriders already. I mean, I don't know what the numbers look like on console because I haven't talked about that yet, but look at how many people were jumping on Steam playing that game. Now, we can't 100% say Game Pass is the reason for that, but maybe that was a great marketing tool for Square Enix to say it was on Game Pass day one, and to create more awareness, so even more people on the PC side decided to pick it up. And I would imagine a ton of people gave it a try day one on Game Pass. Why wouldn't they? Again, what does it hurt? You download it, you try it. If you love it, you'll keep playing it. If you don't, you're going to move on to the next thing. And I think that's where, because I know one of the big concerns I've seen with Game Pass is, oh, see, now they're going to start getting lazy with games. They're not going to be as innovative. They're just going to fill them up with a bunch of microtransactions, and we're not going to get these great experiences. I disagree on that because I think, if anything, this is going to force developers. You're going to have to have a quote unquote great sales pitch with your game, because if you don't hook me, why am I wasting time playing your game? Mm-hmm. Because I'm already a subscriber. I didn't commit $60 or $70 to you. I've only committed a monthly subscription price to you. I will move on to the next thing that does engage with me, it is a lot of fun for me and my friends. I'm not going to waste time on your game. I'm not going to force myself to like your game. Great example of that is Anthem, as an example, right? Anthem, a lot of people tried to make it fun for themselves the first couple months because they spent $60 on it, right? If Anthem was a Game Pass game when it came out and had all those issues day one, you're like, deuces, I'm out. I'm going to go play something else. I'm not wasting my time with this. That's one thing about Game Pass I think people aren't seeing, is it adds some accountability to these games. Don't rush them out. We don't need a cyberpunk scenario with this, right? The game, and look, there's going to be technical issues like we see the server issues with Outriders. That's just a part of it. I'm not saying that. But to just release a half-baked game into the wild and then expect gamers to be patient, we're going to lose patience with that, especially with a service like Game Pass, because you're giving us hundreds of other things that we can basically go try and experience. So look, I understand there's potentially a negative side to Game Pass for the things that I alluded to at the top, but I also think there's a lot of positives to it as well. And we just simply don't know. We're only in, was it year 4 of Game Pass, something like that? It's still going to take time. And we obviously know that Xbox, all their big, from the 23 studios they have now, we're still not there yet with those games starting to come out. So obviously Halo Infinite is going to be one of the big ones that we'll see at the end of this year, potentially Starfield, stuff like that. But the proposition of now third parties bringing their games there day and date really opens up the service to just this new potential of value. Again, as a gamer, I can't worry about what Microsoft and the publishers do, because I'm not getting a paycheck from that. I can only worry about what my entertainment is. So that's what I'm looking at. If you're giving me more value for my $10 or $15 a month, of course, why wouldn't I be excited about that? If Game Pass isn't for you, don't do it. Go buy the games the way you always been buying them. Nothing changes in that scenario. But just like I subscribe to Netflix, Disney Plus, and all that kind of stuff, I don't own those movies. I just get them because they're on a sub. If they went away, they went away. I understand the risk that's involved in that. I understand why people want to have some tangible ownership of certain games. But choice isn't bad. Choices are great. You can choose to not subscribe to Game Pass, or you can subscribe to it. But I know for me, being a family of 5, I got 3 kids that play games and all that. Game Pass seems like a great value proposition to me. So I'm all for it. It's exciting to see these type of games these third-party games come to the service. Obviously, we know what Microsoft is building up with their own internal studios. And like I said, I just think it's exciting times to see where this will go in the next 3 to 5 years. Because like I said, I think the potential of it's really great.
Oh, absolutely. You touched on a ton of really great points that I want to circle back on. Just going to give a quick shout out to the 134 people joining us live so far. If you're liking the show, hit that like button, share it out. I see a couple super chats, and I promise I'll get to those here in a sec. But I want to touch on some of the stuff you mentioned with this Game Pass. We've all been in a situation where we've bought, frankly, a turd of a game. We paid the $60. We are disappointed that we paid $60. So we're gonna suffer through it, and we're gonna see if there's some light at the end of this tunnel in this game that we purchased. And like you mentioned with Game Pass, there is more accountability. If you put a game in that's mediocre, like you said, people are going to move on. It's not going to retain the player base because people have all these options. They're not. Anthem was a great example. People played Anthem because they wanted Anthem to be great. It wasn't. They already paid the money. They were hoping that BioWare would update it and continue to support it. They didn't. And unfortunately, that's, they put it into EA Play way too late, and there wasn't enough consistent updates. So, there was this kind of discussion about, is Game Pass just going to be filler, AA filler, whatever, however you want to spin that. And as we've seen with MLB The Show and Outriders, these massive AAA releases, that's definitely not the case. Xbox is going incredibly hard this year. And I think MLB The Show and Outriders, these 2 latest kind of developments, open the door, or make the door completely wide open when it comes to the holiday season. Because we know Xbox has goals for this year. A lot of people's bonuses this year are tied directly to Xbox Game Pass subscriber growth. So yeah, I could definitely see something like Battlefield coming to the service. Multiplayer games that are good will thrive in Game Pass. We've seen that time and time again, with Sea of Thieves as a prime example. That game did not launch in a great state. But thankfully, as opposed to something like Anthem, that team stuck with it, gave consistent updates, and gave players a clear vision of where they wanted to take the game. And now that we're kind of 3 years into the launch of that, it's a completely different experience. And Game Pass and Steam has had this huge growth. Your point regarding Outriders, we don't know what the numbers look like on console, but it's probably safe to say that you had people playing on console who have friends who traditionally play on PC pick up that game on Steam because their friend who maybe wasn't going to buy it initially is like, hey, this is on Game Pass. Do you want to check this out? He's like, yeah, sure. I don't have an Xbox. I'll grab it on Steam. And so you have this I'm sure organic growth just from the conversations of people hitting up their
Right.
friends. Hey, this is a co-op game. It's launching in a Game Pass. I'm going to be playing it. And they're like, I'll pick it up on Steam. It looks cool. And that kind of organic growth is going to be huge. And that's going to be a huge selling point for third-party developers when it comes to Xbox Game Pass. So I'm very curious now to see what the holiday season looks like. And I'm very curious to see what other big third-party games are going to be launching day and date. Because yeah, MLB The Show for me kind of makes anything possible. Madden. If you get MLB The Show and Madden in 1 year in Xbox Game Pass, that is going to set the precedent that Xbox is the best place to play sports games. Like you're not going to have to buy Madden every year. You're not going to have to buy MLB The Show every year. You're not going to have to buy FIFA every year. It's in Game Pass. And for some people, those are literally the only games they buy every year. And this isn't about targeting the core exclusively. Like I'm probably more in the core space, but Xbox Game Pass and the vision for Xbox as a platform is global, and it's about embracing casual players and going to where people are, as opposed to kind of targeting the core, which I mean, not to throw shade necessarily at PlayStation, but that has kind of been their bread and butter, is embracing and really targeting a hardcore demographic of players. And while that is cool and that has led to some incredible games, PlayStation first party studios are kind of leading the industry when it comes to quality. At the end of the day, I don't think that's if we're talking about sustainability, as Jim Ryan has come out and said, they're looking at ways to make more money. Because I think they're seeing, as these games release, that, hey, we spent 4 or 5 years on this big budget game, spent millions and millions of dollars, and we only sold 10 million copies. Which, granted, 10 million copies is a big milestone, but is that enough to justify Last of Us level games that are in development for 5-6 years? Is that enough to kind of let PlayStation keep making these big quality games? And I think with recent interviews from Jim Ryan, they're shifting that a little bit. So it's going to be really interesting to see how and when PlayStation properly competes with Game Pass. Because at this point, I don't think it's a question of if. I think it's just going to be how and when.
Oh, I completely agree. And going back to just the strategy that Xbox has had here, if you look at it, and I always tell the story about 2016. I was at that spring showcase where Phil Spencer kind of gave the keynote, but he literally laid out what we're seeing today back then. So they've been building to this for a while, getting the services in place, getting the infrastructure in place. But Xbox has gone beyond the console now, and they're on, obviously, like you said, there's games on Steam. They obviously have Game Pass on PC. We're seeing via Project X Cloud. They're now on mobile. They're about to be on your smart TV apps as well. It's the same cloud streaming on PC. They're trying to make, because what did he say? This was some years ago. There's 3 billion gamers out there. They're trying to reach all of them. Mm-hmm. This is how they're doing it. There's always the exclusive conversation. People love to get upset about that stuff. Obviously, PlayStation, if you look at what they've done, yes, they have a very robust exclusive lineup. I mean, dude, Spider-Man is flipping amazing. I love Spider-Man. Miles Morales followed up on it. Fantastic, brand new IP in Horizon Zero Dawn as examples. But then what did we see? They brought Horizon Zero Dawn to the PC. What's the other one that's coming out? Is it Days Gone? I forget which one it is. But
yeah, they did Death Stranding, which it's complicated, first party, third party, and then Days Gone as well. Is that June? But I'm trying to remember.
I think something like that. But the point is not that it's day and date, coming to PC. I get they're still keeping the quote unquote exclusive window for these PlayStation games, and it obviously makes sense for them. I understand why exclusives happen. Not that I'm a fan of them, but I get it. But they are bringing them to a new audience, to a new platform. And the way that I'm seeing their kind of strategy, just sticking with Horizon Zero Dawn, you brought that to PC, rough launch a little bit, but it's in a good place right now. But if you look at comments from people that have played it on Steam, genuinely people love it. What does that do? Potentially, when Forbidden West comes out, assuming it doesn't get delayed, when it comes out this holiday, now you might have that PC guy who played Horizon Zero Dawn going, wait, the sequel's out?
What?
Maybe I should get a PlayStation 5 because I kind of want to play that now. I don't want to wait another 3 years to play it. So I totally get PlayStation strategy with that. And like you said, why limit the amount of people that can experience these amazing games? Why, like you said, you're putting 4 and 5 years of development time into something like The Last of Us 2. God knows how much it costs, and you're limiting how much you can make financially from it. Why not bring it to PC? What does it hurt? Is my point. I understand you don't want to bring it to Xbox and things like that. That I totally get because of competition, all that. But PC and the mobile and the streaming space is just sitting there waiting for you. There's no reason to not do it. Obviously, Microsoft is embracing it, and not that we need to relitigate the whole Bethesda stuff and all that. This is part of the reason why you won't see Starfield show up on PlayStation, not natively, anyways, because they want you in their ecosystem. Again, PlayStation wants you in their ecosystem, same as Xbox. Xbox has expanded their ecosystem into PC and into the cloud streaming space, with xCloud. PlayStation, it looks like, is trying to do something similar, but they didn't lay the groundwork to do this back in 2015, 2016, like Xbox did. It looks like they're kind of starting that initiative now, so it's going to take time for them to get there. But at the end of the day, as a gamer, we're the ones that win. More options, more choices on where to play these amazing games, I should say, is always a great thing. But going back to the Bethesda thing, just super quick on that, I think people need to, when Phil Spencer was talking about this during the the whole Bethesda unveil that they did, the Q&A, or roundtable conversation, what was the last thing that he said? Bethesda titles will show up where Game Pass is, because that's ultimately their goal. Now, if PlayStation were to magically say, yep, we'll allow Game Pass on there, Starfield and Wolfenstein and all that stuff will be there tomorrow. Halo 2, all of them would be there. But we know that's not going to happen. So can PlayStation do something similar? I don't know. If they can. It'll take a lot of time because they, again, haven't put in the infrastructure work to create that. I don't know if they have the upfront capital to create the same third-party deals that Microsoft has been doing. Obviously, they have a very robust internal lineup, but yeah, of course, they're going to try and monetize their franchises and have more earnings from them. It just makes sense. Xbox is literally doing the same thing right now. That's why you see these games on PC. That's why you see them on mobile. And like I said, eventually you're going to have smart TV apps where all you got to do is pick up your controller, connect it via Bluetooth, go into the app, and you're playing Halo Infinite on your TV without an Xbox console. And you're going to reach more of the casual audience. You're going to reach those 3 billion people that way. So it's a smart strategy. And like I said, I'm excited to see if they can pull it off.
Yeah, I'm kind of expecting native apps on Samsung TVs here this holiday season. I wouldn't be surprised if we see an ad for a Samsung TV that says, Xbox Game Pass app built in, play Halo Infinite on your Samsung TV this holiday. Like, that's the kind of level, like, that's the widespread appeal. They want, as much as people don't like to use the Netflix of gaming kind of comparison, Xbox Game Pass is the closest we've seen so far to a Netflix of gaming. And they want that. They, as much as they're not going to publicly say that that's what they want, you look at Netflix's growth and how, they have gone from this kind of scoffed at kind of idea, this digital only, streaming only, weird kind of concept that nobody really wrapped their mind around initially, to something bigger than Disney, that is an impressive amount of growth for a company in a very short period of time. Disney has a huge legacy. PlayStation has a huge legacy as well. And we're seeing the shift. As we saw with Xbox, these companies are big ships and it takes a long time and years for them to turn. But Xbox has turned this ship. They are on the right path. And we're in a position now where if PlayStation hasn't been starting this turn, it's going to be, unfortunately, a pretty bitter and rough few years for them. We're going to be seeing probably, parallels to what Xbox experienced with Xbox One. Obviously not as negative. There was a lot of issues and flaws fundamentally with the launch of the Xbox One that the PlayStation 5 doesn't have. But when it comes to services, when it comes to innovation, when it comes to growth, we have to ask questions like, why is PS Now wildly underperforming Xbox Game Pass? Why isn't PlayStation adjusting a strategy that competes? Obviously, PlayStation Plus is a great value, especially compared to games with gold. But PlayStation Plus and games with gold are kind of relics of an older time, and we're moving beyond that. And Game Pass is kind of that next step. PS Now, came out first. It was a cool idea, but it feels like it's just kind of been not ignored, but not fostered in the same way that PlayStation Plus has. And, with MLB The Show, with these other huge third-party games coming day and date, is PlayStation now going to get to a point where it can compete? And is PlayStation going to invest, and can they invest the money that they need to get these big deals? They're more than happy to give Square money for exclusivities on Final Fantasy, but yeah, I really wonder what Xbox paid MLB for this Game Pass deal. I imagine it's probably a scary number.
Yeah, wasn't cheap. That's for sure.
All right, I got to get to a couple super chats real quick here. Mr. Joanna Dark with $10. With MLB The Show 21 being day one on Game Pass, can you see a similar situation where the next Resident Evil, Monster Hunter, Persona 6 comes day one to the service? What do you think?
Yeah, for everything that we were just saying, I think everything's on the table. I use the old Morpheus quote. I goes, some rules can be bent, others can be broken. If they can make a deal that is financially viable for Square as an example, and for Xbox, they're going to do it. That's the whole point here. Again, the games would still be on PlayStation. You can still go buy them if you want to. They're not taking something away from you. That's why all the discourse yesterday with MLB The Show was hilarious to me, because it was like, what changed? Nothing changed for you if you're on PlayStation and you still want to buy MLB The Show. You can still go do that. You can still play the game and you can still enjoy it.
They were happy to pay $70. Yeah, they were, 2 months ago, $70. I'm for it. They're updating the graphics. It's going to be the best way to play. And then a contingent of people are like, Jim Ryan needs to be fired right now.
Yeah.
It's like,
but you know what, on that really quick, all that stuff is performance art. None of that stuff is real. None of those people that you see making these outrageous claims online were even going to buy MLB The Show. They just saw that Xbox obviously made one hell of a deal for their ecosystem, for their community, and they just didn't like it because I'm not there and I'm not taking advantage of it. It's all silly. Silly. But back to the original point. I mean, nothing changed for anyone that's on PlayStation and wants to play MLB The Show. Just like with the super chat, if they made a deal for Persona 6 as an example, you can still go buy Persona 6 on PlayStation. Or, which is the whole point of why Microsoft is doing this, they've now made you at least think twice. Maybe I should go get an Xbox. Maybe I should go subscribe to Game Pass. That's one hell of a deal, right? That's the whole point of this. That's why they're doing this. But they're not taking anything from you. That's when, like, I can understand the argument about Bethesda and people on PlayStation being upset about the Bethesda deal, because they are taking something from you. They're taking Fallout, they're taking Wolfenstein, they're taking Starfield, they're taking Elder Scrolls, all on down the line. They're taking that off that platform unless it's a legacy game that already existed there. But the new stuff, you're not going to get it. You will have to go into the Xbox ecosystem to be able to play those games. Those arguments I can understand. But this one about making third-party Game Pass deals, who cares? Because even on Xbox, you ain't forced to subscribe to Game Pass. Buy it. If you want to, it's a choice. So, yeah. But again, to the original question, absolutely. If they work out the deals and it makes sense for both parties, they're going to do it, because why not?
Yeah, like I talked about earlier. At this point, I don't feel like anything's off the table when it comes to third party. Like, we know the absurd amount of money that Microsoft makes every quarter. They were able to pay for the Bethesda deal 2 times over in 3 months, which is, I can't wrap my mind around that much money. It's absurd. And I always talk about this on the show, and there's Brad Ward always memes me because Xbox doesn't want to be the bad guy. And they are doing everything in their power right now to not be the bad guy while still being incredibly aggressive. So with the MLB deal, with Outriders, you don't have to subscribe to Game Pass. You don't have to buy this game, but it's there. It's a good deal.
Yeah.
It's the best deal. And if you want it, it's there. If not, cool, whatever. That's your prerogative. But just so you know, this momentum is not stopping. We're not done. Outriders, MLB, what's next? Anything. It's intense. It's an intense strategy that I'm pretty stoked to see Xbox successfully pulling off right now.
Here's how I know they have a long-term commitment to Game Pass. When you have the CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella, basing part of his bonus off of the success of Game Pass, that lets me know it is not an Xbox initiative, it's a Microsoft initiative. So absolutely, they're going to continue to be aggressive. They're going to continue to make these studio acquisitions and make these third-party partnership deals to bring more value to that service, because the entire company is incentivized for it to succeed. And like you said, Microsoft, because again, we're talking a $1 trillion company in Microsoft who, hey, Bethesda, how much? 7 point. Yeah, okay, write a check, done. And then, oh, we already made that back, and it didn't even affect. We didn't need the gaming division to make the money back for us. We made it back, through other parts of the company. So, and look, I understand there's obviously a positive, but there are potential negatives to this as well. I get it. Going back to the Bethesda thing, you literally just took a major third-party publisher off the board. What does that mean 5 years from now? I don't know. We will find out. But the point, like you said, Microsoft is still trying to be the good guy, but also be aggressive at the same time. And we're seeing this real time. It is so funny. Like on xCast, we really thought, first half of the year is going to be pretty slow. We'll be scrambling for news topics. They're dropping bombs every week. Like, wait, what? You did what? And like the Discord thing, obviously they're talking to them right now. And it's like, this is, again, I think as a gamer, you want an aggressive Microsoft because competition breeds innovation. It's going to force PlayStation to be aggressive. It's going to force Nintendo to be aggressive. It's going to force even third-party publishers on the PC side to be aggressive because it's all competition. So again, we're the ones that win when all this stuff happens. So yeah, trust me, I'm very excited to see this aggression from Microsoft and making these deals, because it's just going to bring more value to the things I'm already invested in, and it's going to create new innovative experience for all of us. So it's a good thing ultimately.
Absolutely. It's a huge plus for us as players because, like you said, the more the competition we have in the space, the more new ideas we're going to have when it comes to games, when it comes to services, when it comes to platforms. All of these companies are now at a point where they understand that no one is holding back. Right. There is no weak link anymore. I mean, people can, on either side, can make their arguments for specific flaws, and no platform is perfect right now. None of them are executing flawlessly, but all of them are at a point where they are doing something incredibly well. The Switch is a runaway success when it comes to hardware. That is not something that anyone really expected, I think. I don't think people expected the Switch to still outsell PS5, Xbox Series X years in. PlayStation, their first-party titles are incredible. They have legitimate console hardware selling games. Xbox, when it comes to services, Xbox Game Pass is the best deal in gaming, no question, no legit competition, really. So all of them are really throwing everything they have into this, and for us, that's awesome, because we are going to get better games, we're going to get better experiences, and we're going to have these people legitimately vying for our dollar. And, as we've seen when it comes to HBO, when it comes to Netflix, all these other streaming services, they want you subscribed. They want you invested, and that's going to mean they are going to make some big moves to get big things into their platform. HBO with the Warner Brothers deal, getting King Kong versus Godzilla, Snyder Cut, all these big movies day one into a streaming platform because they want you to subscribe. It's kind of a good parallel to what Xbox is doing with Game Passes. They understand the value of value, and that is a huge motivating factor for Xbox Game Pass.
And that's the one thing I know we get accused on xCast of being big cheerleaders for Game Pass, but again, I don't care because I like cool stuff. But that's part of the thing. Like you bring up the HBO Max analogy. So let's just take Godzilla versus King Kong as an example, right? So I'm subscribed to HBO Max, and when I heard that news, I go, "Yep, excited for it." That gets me in the door to want to subscribe because, hey, here's a movie, here's some content that I care about. The challenge is for HBO Max, and this is also the challenge for Xbox as well, once you get me in the door, keeping me there. And bringing this back to Game Pass, like you're seeing them being very aggressive with these $1 deals and everything to get you in the door, right? So you see, oh my God, look at all this stuff. But the challenge is when that $1 deal is up, are you going to get me to now pay full price to continue to be a subscriber? How do you do that? You add value to the service and you keep bringing in compelling and diverse content. to the service. Same again, bringing it to HBO Max or Disney or Netflix, whatever analogy you want to use. So, they can have these splash headlines to create attention. Outriders, MLB The Show, to say, oh wow, Game Pass, I better subscribe to that. That sounds great. But what is Game Pass going to look like for me 6 months from now once I've completed Outriders or I've had my fill of MLB The Show? You need more things. Obviously, we know they have their internal studios creating quote unquote original content for them, but then you fill that out with third party content, with indie content, at the double A and and the indie level. I think of a game like The Ascent is coming to Game Pass. Honestly, I'm just as excited for that game as I would be for Halo Infinite, and that's not some big AAA game. That's coming from a small studio. I think over in Sweden. I think they're coming out of, but that's a compelling AA experience. That, oh my God, I'm a subscriber on Game Pass. I get that day one. Oh, yep, I'm gonna stay in. I'm gonna keep subscribing. I think of a game like I've already played, like Spiritfarer is another one where I'm gonna be honest, never would have bought that game. I never would have, but because I discovered it on Game Pass, here I am. I'm boohoo crying in tears at the end playing that game because of what the story was about. So again, I'd like this aggression by Microsoft, and clearly they understand that Halo Infinite isn't enough to make someone a 12-month subscriber to Game Pass. You have to have content throughout the year. Like I said, all at the top, at the AAA level or all the way down, to the indie level, that's compelling and diverse, that makes people want to stay a subscriber year round, because you never know what's around the corner that you're going to discover or find. Like, again, and one last thing, my oldest daughter is on Game Pass a lot. She's constantly coming to me discovering new games, and that's great. I mean, that's a good thing. She's finding stuff that I didn't even know about. Wait, what is that? Oh yeah, well, maybe I should check that out too, as an example, right? And that's what they're doing with this service. And like I said, again, as a gamer, it's great. It's great. Why wouldn't you root for this to succeed? It's a good thing for me as a gamer. It gives me more great games to play.
Good thing for our wallets. I think about the transition I've made in recent years from, buying CDs, buying albums physically, buying movies physically, to having that, moment where I connect with a streaming service, whether it be for music or when it comes to movies. And that completely changes my habits as a consumer. Like, I'm okay not owning every single movie that I want to watch, because I have a closet full of DVDs and Blu-rays that I probably will never touch ever again. There's probably 150 movies that I own and 200 CDs that I own that I will never ever use again. And it's cool. I understand some people's desire to have physical media, but
yep,
I'm for convenience. If it means I don't own it, technically speaking, what's the meme that a lot of people use with Game Pass? You're renting it. You're renting a game, which it's not at all the same. But I kind of get that mentality. Convenience is king, and that's kind of the value proposition of Xbox Game Pass. Is people are willing to relinquish ownership technically if that means they can get more and get something consistent every month. You look at what's coming to Netflix every month, you have a huge list, and that's kind of what Xbox is building towards as well. It's like when you look at what's coming to Game Pass this month, you can say, oh wow, there's like 3 things that I probably would have bought, or 3 things that I want to play, and I can spend a la carte $80 to $100 to get all of these, or I can just stay subscribed to Game Pass.
Yeah, completely agree with you on that. I mean, and that's the thing. It's almost like the buffet analogy. You spend one price to get in the door. You have the buffet, and you get to pick and choose what you want to consume at that time. Once you're done, you walk out the door, and you no longer have access to that. For some people, that's great. For some people, it's not. For some people, they want to go into the grocery store and actually purchase the ingredients they want for their meal, right? Because it gives them a sense of ownership over it. But I don't know. I just feel like we're in an age now, in this digital age, where I'd argue, and I understand the collector's mentality, physical media. I get it. I'm not dissuading from that at all. But if you're buying games via digital download, do you really own it? Do you? I mean, we just saw an example of with the PlayStation Store, the PS3 and Vita store potentially going away. Now, yes, if you've already purchased it, they're still allowing you an avenue to re-download and all that, and that's great. But what if they didn't? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? you own that game, right? But now you don't have access to it anymore if you needed to re-download it. So you have to think of it that way. That's why even I've never been a big fan of Stadia and their business model. I actually think Stadia made more sense as a subscription model because what am I owning with Stadia? If the Stadia technology goes away, which very well might happen, okay, I bought Cyberpunk 2077 on it. Can I still access that game? No, because Stadia doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, they're shutting down the servers. You can't download the files and like have it to access.
Exactly. So look, I understand the argument on both sides of it. And again, it's a choice. You don't have to do any of this. You can still go buy the games. You can still go buy physical copies. But it's very clear to me by the time we get to the next generation of gaming, would not shock me the next PlayStation and Xbox does not have a physical media outlet at all. Everything will be digital at that point. So then, do you really want to keep buying games at $60 a pop? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But I like having the subscription model because I'm basically using it for everything else in my life already. But I do understand the personal choice of that. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer for it. I just like having the option available if I so choose.
Oh, absolutely. Quick shout out to the 211 people hanging out with us. Really appreciate it. If you guys are digging the show, hit that like button, share it out. Let's see how many people we can get in here today. I'm gonna get to a couple super chats real quick. Dovakeen89. Xbox has something going on that a lot of people are missing. The Show 21, FIFA 21, Madden 21, NBA 2K 21, PES 21, NHL 21, UFC 4. The ultimate sports catalog. Yeah, like we talked about a little bit earlier on in the show, if you are primarily a sports fan, Xbox is targeting you hard this year. They're letting you know loud and clear that Xbox is the place to play sports games. Xbox is the best value when it comes to playing sports games. And that's, for a lot of people, that carries a ton of weight. Another quick super chat from Roker Corey. Sony using last gen strategy while Microsoft is disrupting. So what do you think about that? I've kind of talked about this previously, that I was expecting this shift in the overall kind of, trying to think of the right word. Basically a shift in the perception of Sony and Xbox. Xbox obviously had a rough several years, and there was a lot of negative press around their strategy, their games, the platform. But starting in 2016 into 2017, you could feel that shift. And some of it obviously was just marketing. They wanted to let you know what their intentions were and not to ignore the platform despite all of its flaws. But now that we're a few years in, Xbox is dead serious about making Xbox literally the best place to play, which has got to be kind of scary for competition. And then you have PlayStation on the other hand, who is, tying their exclusives to plastic, in which they're seeing, that the chip shortages, I'm sure, they're shooting themselves in the foot when they're making PS5 exclusives that they can only sell to a maximum of like 5-6 million people at this point. So what are your thoughts on the differences between Sony's strategy and Xbox's? Do you think PlayStation is a generation behind when it comes to the business?
I would push back on that and say there isn't a right or wrong answer to that right now because we simply don't know. They're taking two different approaches, and that's great. Let's see. Maybe they both work. Maybe only one of them works. We just don't know because we're too early in this generation. But I do agree with you. And again, COVID-19 has obviously changed the world. And we're seeing all these hardware shortages because of chip shortages, things like that. So that does hurt PlayStation in the short term. For like Ratchet and Clank, as an example, is a PlayStation 5 only game. So you're limiting your audience on who can actually engage with that game, depending on how many PlayStation 5s are out there in space. Whereas you look at the approach that Microsoft has done, even if there was right now a shortage of Series X console. It's I don't even how do you say it? Xbox
like
Series
console. Yeah, that's what I've seen. The Xbox Series consoles. It doesn't sound that cool, but it works.
Yeah, but my point on that one is they've at least allowed you a couple of different avenues to still engage with those games. Obviously via cloud streaming with Project X Cloud, and these games are showing up on PC as well. So not that that's a perfect thing, but there's options there. There's more ways to engage. And obviously, Microsoft is in the subscription business now with Game Pass. We've talked that to death. I won't go back down that route. Whereas PlayStation has stayed with the traditional, hey, you buy your games at retail for X amount of dollars. We have a few supplemental things with PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now, but they're not our primary focus. You still go buy our hardware. Have a nice day. Clearly it's worked the past 7 or 8 years, because without question PlayStation has been the leader in this space, and they continue to be so. For all the things that we praised about Xbox right now, they are still in prove it catch up mode. No doubt they still need to prove they can make compelling AAA experience games. They still need to prove that Game Pass is a long-term viable service. They're still trying to catch up to the leader, and the leader is PlayStation. Like I said, I think the things that you brought up for PlayStation right now are just short-term things, just because of the state of the world right now. Long-term, their strategy very well may still be the thing that covers us through the next decade. We just simply don't know. Mm-hmm. I do know this: PlayStation has a very robust exclusive lineup of games that I absolutely want to play, that I absolutely tell myself, I better make sure I own a PlayStation 5 because I want to play those games. Xbox, still up for debate because we don't know.
Yeah,
there's been a lot of talk. Talk is great. There's been some great sizzle reels and all that stuff about Perfect Dark coming, and we know Starfield is the giant elephant mystery in the room right now, and we know Halo Infinite, they delayed it a year. What is that going to be? And what is the next Gears going to look like? Forza, they're turning into like a platform. They're Avowed, Fable on down the road. It's all talk because I don't have those games in my hand right now. I can't tangibly say, yep, I played the last Halo and it was great, because guess what? It wasn't. Halo 5 was not a good experience. So they still need to prove to me that Halo Infinite is going to change my mind and be a great thing. The last Perfect Dark we had was 15 years ago, and it wasn't that good. So they still need to prove it to us. So I know I'm very long-winded. I'm sorry I talk a lot.
No, it's all good.
I just feel like I talk too much. But long story short, I think both approaches, one has stayed traditional, one has been disruptive, as a person said before. Let's see which one bears out over time. We still don't know. I'll say this, as a gamer, I don't think either one is wrong. I'm honestly excited about both, because both have things that I care about, things that I want to engage with, and we'll see which one winds up being the superior.
Yeah, you bring up some interesting points about Xbox's exclusive catalog, and if I wasn't as invested in the Xbox ecosystem, there's arguably wasn't a big system seller for the Series X. Whereas with PlayStation and Nintendo, I can point to a single game, Demon Souls with the PS5. I pretty much paid $500 for Demon Souls. That is like the power of some of the exclusives they have. With the Switch, Zelda, I was buying that day one. Doesn't matter how much that's going to cost me. Both of those platforms do a really great job of making exclusives that you will buy a console for. And Xbox is not quite there yet. I love Xbox. I do love, like, Sea of Thieves. I've said this countless times, is, in my opinion, one of the most important and one of the most innovative games of the last decade. Hands down. Is it a system seller? I don't know. I don't think so. Like, I love Sea of Thieves, but there's a lot of, reasons I can't recommend Sea of Thieves to someone. So Xbox still hasn't gotten to that point where we've seen the fruits of these investments pay off yet. I'm hoping when we get a first slice of Hellblade 2, when Halo Infinite comes out this year, I'm hoping that is the mission statement for Xbox, saying this is what you can expect from Xbox Game Studios moving forward. We are going to make the best games in the space that we possibly can. We are going to be making the best games in these series' history, because they've talked about making, Elder Scrolls, making Fallout better than they've ever been, but we need to see it. We haven't seen it with Halo. Like you said, Halo 5 multiplayer suite was pretty awesome. The campaign, which has kind of been Halo's bread and butter, was arguably bad. I was not a fan. I don't want to be too harsh on it, because I know some people like it, but wow, there were some just awful decisions made with the Halo 5 campaign. And Halo Infinite, unfortunately for Xbox and unfortunately for the team working on Halo Infinite, it has to be like a 9 out of 10. This thing has to absolutely deliver, which is, I'm sure, a lot of stress, and I'm glad they gave the game an extra year, because the moment we see a super hyped, super promoted Xbox Game Studios title come out that is actually developed under the new Xbox Game Studios banner and it's mediocre, that is going to really hurt the mission statement and the kind of momentum that Xbox has been building, because then it's immediately going to go back to Xbox doesn't have the games, blah blah blah, however you want to spin that.
I'll take it a step further when it comes to Halo Infinite. First and foremost, I think one of the smartest things that has happened for Xbox under Phil Spencer's leadership was delaying that game a year, because it told me they are listening to the feedback. They did read the room, and they wanted to avoid a disaster. Because as much as I hate to say it, I do think if it would have come out, the Craig memes and all that would have destroyed that game last holiday if it came out in an incomplete or separated state. Because remember, they even had discussions. Well, maybe we'll just put out the campaign now and put out the multiplayer later, whatever it was. Right? It's like no.
Please don't.
No, we don't want piecemeal. We want the game in a final ready product. Stop rushing games out. Clearly, they read the room with that. They gave them an entire calendar year to get it right. So yeah. You're 100% spot on. It better be a 9 out of 10. And my good friend Khalif Adams, who you should absolutely try and get on here as well. He called it Craig pressure. They have a lot of Craig pressure right now because they have to. I think Craig the meme should always live on, right? I think they should definitely poke fun at themselves that Craig should be in Halo Infinite somewhere. But at some point when they unveil more of Halo Infinite over the summer, I'd imagine they need to show the updated brute models. They need to show that we've moved beyond Craig, right? The game itself does need to be a 9 out of 10. That campaign story does need to get back to what made Halo great, and that's the relationship between Master Chief and Cortana. Obviously, the multiplayer wasn't a problem in Halo 5, so if it's not broken, don't try and fix it kind of mentality, right? I expect them to basically carry that on. Obviously, they want the multiplayer to be a big thing because it's going to a free-to-play model because they want more people engaging with it, right? But it has to hit. It's the flagship.
It has to.
There is, like I said, I remember, I have the photos. I don't know if you've seen them on social media. I have pictures at E3 2001 where I'm at the Halo booth there, and I remember playing that thing at the time, going, this Xbox thing is never going to work. What are they doing? This is terrible. This isn't going to work. It's all buggy. And then obviously I was proven wrong, which is great because I love the Halo series. But if Halo Infinite is not a smash hit, just okay does not cut it with Halo Infinite. Halo Infinite needs to be a return to glory for the Halo franchise, or it will be permanent damage to that IP. It will no longer be considered a top tier flagship IP. It just simply won't. And that again goes back to what you were talking about before. What is Xbox's quote unquote mascot right now? We know with Nintendo, we have Mario, we have Zelda. We're seeing Aloy and obviously with God of War and Last of Us, like they have these signature franchises. I don't know what Microsoft's signature franchise is right now outside of Halo, and Halo right now is not being shown in the best light. I mean, I like Gears. I think it's good. I don't think it's great. I kind of like what they started to do with Hivebusters, and I hope they go down that road more. But they need it, and like we've already been saying, I can see where they're going. I see it, but it's not here yet. So until it's actually in my hands and I'm engaging with it, it's all potential. And we know potential is wasted all the time, to bring in a sports analogy. But I'm obviously rooting for it. I do think they're going to get there, but we're just simply not there yet. So going back to what we're all talking about, they're still improvement mode. They're still trying to catch up. And yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say on it other than, it's all talk right now. And I am definitely glad that they delayed Halo Infinite, because get it right, please. If you need, I don't know if you saw the other day, it was an early April Fool's joke where Kotaku got caught.
Oops.
Where they said it was delayed to 2022. When I saw it, before I really read into it, my first thought was, hey, good. If they're not ready, delay it. COVID's going on and all that. Don't force this thing out.
Yeah, please.
Right? That was my first thought. if it takes another 2 years to get Halo Infinite, but then the final product is everything that we're hoping it to be, do it.
Please.
Yeah.
It needs, like you said, Halo is in a position where it can't be a good game. It can't even be a great game. Halo Infinite has to be an amazing Halo game.
Yep.
Halo Infinite needs to be the greatest Halo that's ever been made. And that probably sucks for members of that team who understand that pressure, but I at least like to believe that everyone involved does understand that pressure, and they are invested in making sure that this Halo is the new generational kickoff for Halo and Xbox Game Studios. This is a fresh starting point. This is a fresh vision for the franchise. Everything you know and love has been improved, and we are going to show you what a new Halo game can be, what a next gen quote unquote Halo game can be, despite it coming out on Xbox One, whatever, however you feel on that. But I'm gonna get to a couple super chats real quick here. Release $70 is okay. I'm trying to understand this. Sorry, release for $70 is less than Game Pass day one. 4 weeks later is $40 retail. From Binyabig. I think I'm wrapping my mind around what you're trying to say there, but
I think so too.
Yeah.
And I totally get that. I'll just think as an example, I know you get Cyberpunk 2077 right now for $20, which that's an extreme. But the point remains, you see a lot of games start off at $60 or $70, and then after a month or two, they're going to be discounted. They're going to take $20 off, $15 off, stuff like that. So you can get them at a cheaper price point, and then you quote unquote own that game versus just being a subscriber. So that requires patience. And I think as gamers, we always want the new shiny. If a hot new game is out, I'm not going to wait. I'm buying it right away. I want to play it, of course. So but I get it. I get what he's saying.
Another super chat from Anthony, $10. Love the conversation. Keep killing it, my dudes. Appreciate that, my man. There's a lot of stuff that we can talk about regarding kind of the industry and the differences between Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo right now. And you kind of touched on this a little bit, and it's something we had a little conversation about, but video game preservation has kind of popped up in this last week because of the fact that PlayStation has officially announced that it's closing down the PS3 and the PS Vita stores and PSP as well. So do you think that PlayStation has an answer to that, and that's the reason? I've heard some people say that they are working on a basically streaming emulation for their backwards compatibility stuff, and that is why those storefronts are going away, because they have an answer. Do you think that's actually the case, or do you think it's just PlayStation doubling down on this idea that they look to the forward, they look to the future, and they're not as invested as kind of preserving the legacy of their games?
I think they are clearly working on a solution. And this is kind of goes back to something I talked about earlier. If you really think about it, Xbox has been working on their backwards compatibility initiative, aggressively since about 2015. So we're now seeing the fruits of that labor here now, like Jason Ronald and that team over there, all these things they've done. The fact that I could pull up freaking Banjo-Kazooie on my phone via cloud streaming is amazing. You're obviously seeing the stuff they're doing with FPS boost, and we know more of those legacy titles are coming. And they have, it's funny. I think if you go back in time, I don't want to say desperation is too strong of a word, but this initiative was born out of the whole Xbox doesn't have games. So we're like, well, what can we add value to our brand? Oh my God, we have all these legacy titles. Let's bring them all forward. Let's make sure that people can still engage and play these games. And again, I don't know nothing, but I kind of think that's where this started, but then it evolved into what we see now, where it is like a real initiative on game preservation and making sure that these legacy games are experienced by a new generation, and you enhance them as needed, as you can. Again, things like FPS boost, as the prime example. You bring it to new platforms via cloud streaming, which we're seeing now. So I do think that is a real thing, and definitely kudos to that entire team over there that's been heading that up, because it's great. As a gamer, it's great to be able to know that the games that I own get to come along with me. I pull them up on my license. I have them all there. That's great. I don't think PlayStation's there just yet to be able to do it, because again, I don't think they've invested in the infrastructure, to be able to do that yet. let's not forget the one thing about Microsoft. Microsoft is at their core a software company. Some of the smartest people on the planet work there doing things that go way beyond just gaming, right? So if they need to pull in certain engineers to help drive this initiative, they obviously have the resources to do it. I'm not sure if PlayStation has that. I don't know. And I'm not trying to say they can't do it, won't do it, or whatever. But let's take the cell processor as an example. I think they would probably have a very hard time making those PlayStation 3 games viable via what emulation needs they need to do on a PlayStation 4 or a PlayStation 5. That's why we have a PlayStation now to be able to do some of that stuff via streaming. So I just think it takes time. I think they're probably working on it. I think they are probably trying to crack that code. They don't want to rush it out too early and it's not in the state that's acceptable. So I think it's probably a patience thing that people are going to need with PlayStation to ultimately get there. I actually think the PS3 and the Vita store is going away isn't so much so they're doing it because they have this master plan that they're about to unveil this summer. I think it's more of a thing of that stuff wasn't profitable anymore. We're seeing diminishing returns year over year. Why are we investing all the costs to keep that store viable and maintenance and everything when no one's using it? So all right, let's get rid of it and we're going to move on. In my opinion, I could be wrong. Who knows? So, but long story short, yeah, I do think they're probably working on some kind of back compat strategy because Microsoft has made it important now. The fact that they've been leading the way on it, now people are looking at PlayStation and going, well, why aren't you doing this? So I think ultimately they will figure it out and we'll see something.
Yeah, I think you make a great point on, I'm sure it was just a numbers thing when it comes to the
Yeah.
PS3 and PS Vita store. Like, we're selling X copies per year, which is not even covering the cost of maintaining these servers. So obviously there's not a huge interest from our kind of audience, so we're going to disable this. And then, yeah, hopefully they are working on some sort of solution. You can say what you will about the Xbox One, but one thing that they did well is they were obviously forward thinking for game preservation, which for us at the time there was a lot of people saying I don't want to play old games, which is kind of whatever. But now that we have stuff like FPS boost, auto HDR, it's almost like free remasters for the games you already own. It's kind of getting on par with PC, where on PC if you have a game that exists, typically as your rig gets better or as the games get updated, you can experience the games in a better state for free, which is something we haven't had on console. We've been subjected to remaster after remaster, and that was kind of the trend for a while. And it's really cool to see a way where I can go back and play these games that I already own, and not only that, but they actually look and play better than they ever have. So backwards compatibility is a big deal, and it's weird that a lot of people kind of downplay it in the gaming space. And the analogy I was using on Twitter the other day is, imagine if you were someone who's like, I'm not going to go back and watch my favorite movie or listen to my favorite album because that's old. I have no interest in listening to music that's old. I have no interest in watching movies that are old. Like that person doesn't exist to me. I've never talked to someone who doesn't have a favorite movie that they want to go back and watch every year. So it's a vocal minority, and we see it amplified on Twitter and social media. But I think at the end of the day, PlayStation realizes that backwards compatibility is important, and people do care, and people are invested, especially as more and more people have been playing games for decades now. Gaming used to be a pretty niche thing, but right now gaming is pretty mainstream. Even my wife, who historically is not a gamer, which I just can't even stand saying that term, honestly, but she historically hasn't really played a lot of games. In recent years, because of the convenience, because of Game Pass and like game sharing between our two Xboxes, she's checking more stuff out. She's playing more games. She's surprisingly really into hardcore survival games like Ark and stuff like that, which is funny to me because, again, games like that and gaming as a whole for a long time was a very hardcore niche thing, and I'm glad that it's become more acceptable and more mainstream. And as that becomes the case, backwards compatibility is just going to get more and more important.
Completely agree. And I'll fully admit, I didn't understand the importance of backwards compatibility some years back. I'm like, who cares? Let's just keep it moving forward. But I've come around on it. I understand being able to jump back into some of these legacy games and experience it or expose it to my kids who never potentially had an opportunity. Like, it's so funny. I always talk about the Series S as the most played console in my house because my kids are constantly on it. But the most played game in my house, ironically enough, is Skate 3. And it's because backwards compatibility. I don't
Skate
have a
3.
360 in my house, but they're able to play it because of that initiative. So there's definitely an importance there. And like you said, I do think PlayStation will get there. I do. And I even saw in the chat, I guess they were saying that Kareem Chowdhury was responsible for the backwards compatibility initiative. I guess Major Nelson had a interview with him where he kind of broke down the history of how all that came about. Honestly, I don't remember watching that, so I'll have to go back myself and watch that because I'm pretty sure that'll be a pretty fascinating read or listen to understand, the origins of that and how it all started inside of Xbox. But I know when we on XCast we got a chance to talk to Jason Ronald just about what they're doing right now with FPS boost and everything, and it's just such a fascinating conversation. It's always good to talk to Jason, but to know that they have a real legitimate commitment internally, to basically preserve these games and improve them over time is great. Who's arguing against that? Like you mentioned, the auto HDR feature that comes into play with that. That's great. Like you said, FPS boost, taking a game that was, a shaky 30 frames per second back in the day, and now it's a rock solid 60 or even a 120 depending on the title. Is amazing. Who doesn't want to do that? Of course you do. I mean, it's a great thing, and like I said, that more than anything excites me about this quote unquote new Xbox, this aggressive Xbox, to see that they've invested in themselves, they've invested in their legacy into their back catalog, and they're also looking forward thinking and making, again, taking old games and making them, and when I say acceptable, I'm saying like for my kids, that are used to playing games in 60 frames and all that and 4K and all these things, taking an old game that I enjoyed back in the early 2000s and making it for a modern age. It's great. Absolutely great. So I keep saying I'm excited about the future of what they're doing, but I'm legitimately excited about the future of what they're doing and things like that.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. Preservation is important, and we have a lot of people, invest in physical media because of those reasons. But I look at my Nintendo 64 and my Sega Dreamcast that I have over here, all these platforms, all these games that aren't available digitally that I would love to see, a way to access them, because even though I own them physically, I'm just too lazy. I'm not going to hook up the 64. Like,
Right,
I'm sorry. Like, put that on my PC, put that on my Xbox, and let me access it that way, because it's all about convenience. Convenience is the most critical thing for consumers right now, because we're spoiled. It's you can spin that as a negative and say that we're just lazy, and I guess sure, you can look at it that way, or you can say expectations have shifted, and you got to meet us there. All right, you got to figure out a way to meet the people there, and you're going to get more engagement that way. It's a quick super chat from Mr. Joanna Dark, again killing it. Parris and Miles, if Xbox could lock down an exclusive Marvel game, would you like to see the X-Men? And which studios should Microsoft give it to? And what type of game would it be? RPG, third-person action. All right, Marvel. If Xbox is making one big Marvel exclusive, what is it going to be? Are you picking X-Men or are you picking something else?
That's a good question. Can I slightly pivot and say my dream, since it's under Disney?
Let's go.
I won't say Marvel. I'm gonna take it into the Star Wars universe. I would love to see the Coalition take a crack at doing the Bad Batch, almost like a spiritual successor to Republic Commando. That would be one for me. I'm still trying to rack my brain on one specifically from Marvel that I would love to see. Honestly, the Avengers has kind of soured me, so I'm thinking I would love to see the Avengers. I'm like, oh, they just did that. That one wasn't so great. But yeah, I mean, the X-Men would be cool to see. I just don't know how to do it and still honor that robust roster of characters, because you don't want to just lock it down to you're playing as a single person or you're constantly swapping between different characters. I'd almost want something squad based with X-Men characters, and obviously you're dealing with all the villains, Magneto, everything comes in, but I'm not 100% sure Yeah, I don't know. That's a great question. I'm gonna have to think about that one because I want to have a good answer instead of just throwing something at the wall. But the X-Men would definitely be a road to go down. I would want it to be something squad based, but I still need to work out the finer details.
Yeah, for me, I'd have to I have huge nostalgia for the OG Xbox Incredible Hulk game. Just phenomenal. Like I believe it was the same team that did the Spider-Man 2 game,
Yeah.
if I remember right. But if we're getting a Marvel exclusive game on Xbox, let's go the Mean Green. Let's get the Incredible Hulk in there, and let's make it like an open world sandbox style. I want to see Crackdown, but actually really good first off, and then
Yeah.
and take the Crackdown formula and let me be the Hulk. Boom, winning recipe right there. I didn't and for throw in multiplayer just because. Give me 4 Hulks in the city just tearing it up. Like I don't need canon. I don't need any sort of compelling story. I just need a Hulk sandbox where I can just run wild. Give it to Ninja Theory. Let's go. Let's get weird. Let's get wild, and give me an exclusive Incredible Hulk game on Xbox.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you look at Spider-Man and even Miles Morales, you just look at what Insomniac was able to do with that. And I just adore both of those games. I really do. They're just so great. Compelling story was in there, but it's Spider-Man. So it's like that individual character. So I think with Marvel, who would you pick? Would you do a Captain America one? Would you do something with Iron Man? Could you do something even more on the cosmic side? You know what? The more I think about it, I got it now. I have it for you.
Oh yeah, let's go. Let's hear it. Let's go.
And I'll stick with the coalition. I won't change from that. You do Guardians of the Galaxy and you make it a squad-based game. You make it a third-person action adventure shooter, and you take it completely into the cosmic realm. So you're jumping to different planets. So you have multiple environments you can do. You can keep the humor of that world that James Gunn has created with the movies. Obviously, Groot would have his special abilities. Rocket, he could have all these different guns that he's using. You could take advantage of what Peter Quill can do. Gamora can be, kind of more agile, using more melee combat. Drax. I kept wanting to say Dave Bautista. And Drax is just your tank.
It's just Dave Bautista, not even Drax. Exactly. It's just Dave Bautista in the game.
Guardians of the Galaxy. There you go. I got it. Squad base. Let the coalition do it. I'm in for it. There you go.
And coalition already has worked with Dave Bautista, so confirmed.
Yep.
Guardians of the Galaxy by the coalition confirmed.
Yeah, and not to mention now that Bethesda is now an internal studio, because I even saw someone in the chat say it. Even if they weren't, because I guess they could probably use Unreal 5, because obviously Coalition has a lot of experience with that. But you could even integrate id Tech into it too. Oh, so good.
Oof, so I like. Yeah, let's go. All right, Coalition, if you're listening, let's go.
Yeah.
Start those contracts. Let's get it. Let's get it happen. All right, super chat from Chiefman says Sonic on id Tech 7. Well, you want to see a first-person shooter Sonic? Is that what you're hoping for?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that'd be cool, but yeah, there's been those constant rumors of Sega potentially joining Xbox, and I think that's kind of where that's coming from. But I'd love to see it. I'd love to see a good Sonic game in general. It's been Sonic Mania was kind of this weird, obscure moment in time where there was a legitimately good Sonic game again, but everything else that's come out for, I would say, the past 20. I don't have any nostalgia for the Dreamcast Sonic games. I think Sonic Adventures was bad, a very bad video game. I know people are nostalgic for it, but I want to live in a world where we have a good Sonic game again, and I just don't know if we'll ever be there.
Now, I was waiting for a segment to where I could throw this in there. So anyone that's watching this right now, you can clip this, tweet it out on social media, put it whatever you need to do. I hope someone, Matt Booty or somebody, is watching this over at Microsoft. Bring back Banjo-Kazooie, please. For the love of God. We need Banjo-Kazooie. This is now my mission in life. I'm going to talk about this until it happens. I absolutely adored Banjo-Kazooie in the late 90s on the Nintendo 64. It was one of my favorite platforms ever. And I'm a Super Mario 3 guy. In my opinion, greatest game ever made to this day. Again, talk about legacy stuff. Still holds up to this day. Go play it. I want Banjo, though. Nuts and Bolts was not acceptable. I refuse to even say that exists. It does not. Banjo-Tooie was the last Banjo game. please, for the love of God, bring back a next-gen proper platforming Banjo-Kazooie game. You put it on the Xbox, cloud streaming, you can put it on a ColecoVision, the Switch. I don't care. Just bring back Banjo-Kazooie. When we talk about Microsoft internal studios, what is one huge gap that they have right now? Look, we all love Ori, we love Cuphead and all that. They don't have their Mario. They don't have their Crash Bandicoot. They do not have that mascot, family-friendly platforming game. They don't,
No.
and they haven't. Honestly, in the history of Xbox, they have not had that. I can point to that, and I go, that's something I want to play with my kids. It's fun as hell. There's a challenge there with the They don't have it.
Voodoo
Sorry,
Vince?
Super Lucky Tales. No, nothing. It's Banjo. I want Banjo. You have this valuable IP that is just sitting there. Stop teasing me. They keep teasing me. Anytime the Rare account puts on an amiibo or anything, I tweet at them every time. Just put out the game, please. I'll never forget being at the last E3, we're actually able to attend in person. Sitting in that media briefing, I was convinced, Banjo. I was convinced, 100% convinced. Okay, this is the year. It's coming. They're going to do it. Nope, it's just in Smash Brothers. Got me again. Stop teasing me, please. I just want Banjo. The day that gets announced, you'll know. You'll know. Go to my Twitter feed. You'll just see me with just spamming memes out of excitement because I want Banjo to come back. I sincerely do. It's not a gimmick. I'm not saying this as a joke. I am dead serious. I want to see a brand new Banjo-Kazooie. Reimagine the original. I don't care what you do. Just bring it back, please. It's time.
It needs to happen.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's like when Banjo was announced for Smash, the hype was so unreal. People were so excited. I've never seen so much legitimate joy in my entire life. And then Xbox hasn't done anything so far. They haven't even teased. They haven't even Phil hasn't even put on a Banjo t-shirt, so we know maybe behind the scenes there's a little something going on. I wonder what's going on because Rare has no interest. Rare is we're not making Banjo. We're not doing it. We don't have a team that wants to do it. They're invested in Sea of Thieves, Everwild. They're pushing these new ideas. Tim Schafer, people were like, "Oh, Double Fine should make Banjo," and he's like, "Nope. There's a team that would make that. They're called Rare." And then Rare's like, "No, we're not going to make it." So they need to find a team to make it, but somebody needs to make Banjo, please, for the love of the fans. Somebody make a Banjo. I'm not even the biggest Banjo fan. I liked it, but it's. Yeah, when you talk about big gaps, they don't have a big platformer. They don't have a big 3D platformer. Super Lucky's Tale, again, I try not to be mean, but Super Lucky's Tale was a bad game. It was not a fun game. It was not a good 3D platformer. It was the weirdest decision for an Xbox One X launch title that you could possibly have. Banjo needs to fill that gap. Banjo needs to happen. If we're looking at studios, who would you task with making Banjo? If we're
Playtonic, because that's the original team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hey, look, you're throwing all this money at Bethesda and Major League Baseball. Throw some to them. You're like, come on,
just
make this game, please.
Just a fraction. I'm sure they don't need that much. Come on. Oh man, dude, it's bad. It hurts.
Here's what I'll be serious for a second. Come on, we know at some point there's been conversations about this. They're probably trying to figure out to do it the right way. I mean, nuts and bolts. I remember being at that spring showcase back in 2008 and seeing that and go, wait a minute, it's not the Banjo I wanted. I was like, what are we doing? But I'm sure they're figuring out a way to properly bring back Banjo and honor that legacy of that IP, like I said, from the late 90s. Look, they didn't put it in Smash Brothers for no reason. If they didn't care about the IP, you wouldn't see Rare teasing the amiibos and doing all that stuff. Yeah. There's a conversation happening somewhere. My hope is there's already been a decision that's been made, and maybe there is a studio that is secretly working on it, and we just simply don't know. Maybe it's a smaller studio we've never heard of. You know what I'm saying? So there could be something. I hope. But I would say, I will go out on a limb, and this is a big limb I'm going out on. I would say before the end of the decade, we'll see a Banjo-Kazooie game. I just
taking a big risk there on that prediction.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to go one step further. Phil, you better have a Banjo in development right now, at least in pre-production. All right? Let's go. A couple super chats. Ryan Coverdale shooting me with a dancing and waving lemon. Sexy. I like that. Appreciate that. Jose Quinones has an idea for a Marvel exclusive. A third-person Wolverine game that goes into first-person mode when he's in rage mode, done by Machine Games. Oh, that reminds me of the Doom movie with The Rock. Did you ever watch that?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I did.
Just okay. Yeah. All right. So last segment of the show today, I want to get into a kind of like a little game, and we're gonna get the official Parris predictions on Xbox E3. So I'm gonna run you through a gauntlet of potential things that could be at E3. You tell me yes, no, maybe so. We're gonna get into it. You let me know when you're ready.
Let me be crystal clear. I am not Jeff Grubb, who was
everything you say is going to be tweeted as confirmation.
I know nothing. Let's be clear on that one before we start. But yeah, let's go.
No, this is just for fun. This is only for funsies, all right? For all those Twitter sleuths out there who are saying that I'm confirming From Software Xbox exclusives.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of this was actually on my notes, and I'm glad you mentioned this. So Xbox, E3, not E3, because I don't think they're officially going to be at E3. E3 window Xbox. Will we see a new Banjo-Kazooie? Yes or no? No. Hard no.
No, because I don't want to get my hopes up. No.
There's no world where we see a Banjo this year to you. Not even a tease.
There's a word. Oh, okay. See, now you said tease. Okay.
I didn't say.
I think we could. I think we could get a tease. Okay. I do think we could get a tease.
Yes. We have to will this into existence. All right. Yeah. Manifest your dreams. All right. Banjo. So, what about actual gameplay for Hellblade 2? Are we going to see in-engine gameplay for Hellblade 2 this year?
Yes.
And will they run it on Xbox Series X?
Yes. I think that's important. I think, and I'll just, for any other ones, I think anything we see will be Series X gameplay. Because I think that's obviously what they want to showcase. They don't want to even go overboard with a PC. I think Series X is the reasonable visuals that you want to see for anything they show at an event.
I totally agree. I think anything we see at this E3, I know last year was weird because people weren't getting dev kits until July-ish, so they were getting them far late in the game. So that's why we saw Halo Infinite running on PC. But I think this year in particular, they are really going to stress, this is what the toolkit of the Xbox Series X can do. Here is Hellblade 2 running in real time on an Xbox Series X, and here is the new Unreal Engine running in real time on the Xbox Series X.
I agree.
Let's go. Okay, Gears 6. I know they're supporting Gears 5 currently. Are we going to get an announcement or a tease for Gears of War or Gears 6? Sorry. Old habits die hard.
No, I don't think so.
I kind of agree. I want them to tease it, but I feel like with this transition and the way that they've been supporting Gears with different operations, I think we're probably a couple years away from a new Gears.
And here's why. I think in years past, I would have 100% said yes, but they have so many things in the oven right now that's cooking. They don't need it. So there's no reason to tease it, because you can save that for later when it's closer to time when they would actually be ready to unveil that type of game. I mean, hell, they got all this Bethesda stuff they got to start talking about. There's no reason to have a Gear 6.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm hoping we're done with Xbox teasing stuff years in advance, even though they just did that with Everwild and Fable. But, you know, they have such a huge portfolio now and so many teams working on different projects. I want those big moments where it's like, here's Gear 6, and this is dropping in 6 months. Let's go.
Yep.
Let's get excited. All right. Will we see Halo Infinite multiplayer revealed at E3?
Yeah, 1000% yes.
Will we see Warzone 2.0 or an equivalent at E3 this year?
Yes.
I totally agree. I think we're going to see what the new Halo looks like. They've said they're not doing Battle Royale. I don't expect them to do a Battle Royale, but I expect them to have a answer to that in a Halo way. And I expect it to be like a bigger scale Warzone. The weird thing is, can they even use Warzone? Will they use Warzone anymore? Because it's so synonymous with Call of Duty.
I think you make a great point on that. I could definitely see them rebranding it, and like you said, I think when they say no battle royale, I think it's careful wording
Hmm.
in that they don't want it to just use the tired phrase battle royale, but they will have something that resembles it in spirit. Would be my case. Again, this is why I think they're going free to play with the multiplayer, because I think we're going to see some huge battlefields out there of Spartans doing
Hmm.
something.
Yes.
And
Yes.
yeah, I'm honestly excited to see what they do with it, because again, I don't think Halo 5 multi was broken. I think it was fine. So just build upon the success that you had with that and make something even bigger and better.
Yeah, we're just seeing the shift in recent years with like Apex
Mm.
Legends and Fortnite, and those teams aren't ignoring the success and what they've been able to do with that model and with that large scale
Mm-hmm.
multiplayer. So I guarantee they'll have some answer to that, and I really want it to be a giant like big team 100-player big team battle, something
Yep.
on that caliber where you have a massive Halo battlefield, those memories you have of like the LAN parties, 4 Xboxes hooked up back in the day playing 16-player. Take that energy, take that kind of excitement, and make that 10 times bigger. 200-player Halo, let's go. Let's up the ante, let's see how big we can get this. And I hope they're doing something cool, because I mean at this point big team battles with 16 players, that's not even a big team battle anymore.
No.
That's average multiplayer mode now. That's
Yeah,
not
exactly.
impressive. You got to up the
Yeah.
ante. All right. Will we see Elden Ring gameplay at Xbox's showcase? Or will that be shown beforehand, or will that be shown somewhere else?
I think somewhere else.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah. I've
torn
got.
on this. I
Yeah.
know Xbox wants it. I know Phil Spencer went and talked to From Software about, I don't know 100%, but I'm 90% one of the reasons Phil Spencer was visiting From Software was to talk about getting the gameplay reveal. They revealed the game at an Xbox showcase, and you know, they did the same thing with Sekiro. They revealed gameplay, and I know Phil Spencer wants that. Phil Spencer wants that moment of Elden Ring is associated with Xbox. From Software games should be associated with Xbox, as they traditionally haven't been. Even though the last few, I want to say Dark Souls 3, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, guys, but I think Dark Souls 3 was even revealed with Xbox as well. So there's been a lot of momentum that Xbox has been building towards, and I mean the cult kind of following that Elden Ring has is slightly scary, but also there's a lot of positive press associated with that. You
Yeah.
you get Elden Ring at an Xbox showcase, and that's gonna make a lot of headlines. You get Elden Ring at all anywhere, and that's gonna dominate headlines. So
Oh, completely agree.
Xbox wants it bad. Will they get it? I don't know. I really don't know. I think they've had some long and hard conversations with From Software about locking it down, but I'm sure Sony and a bunch of others have, you know, had those same conversations. How do we get that big reveal? Because even though it's not an exclusive, it's going to be on both platforms. I guarantee they're both fighting for that reveal, because as we saw with Destiny, you know, where it's revealed and how it's marketed can kind of shift the perception of where to play it.
Absolutely.
All right, what new IP, if any, is Xbox going to reveal at around E3 this year?
Well, can't. I'll answer this way, because clearly we won't know what it is, so I don't even want to try and guess what a new IP that they will reveal. But I definitely think they will reveal something. There will be something brand new that we've never heard of before that they'll show.
Yeah, I think we'll see a lot of new things. New IP, I expect to see a couple announced pretty much every year from Xbox.
Yeah.
They want to maintain the legacy, and they're gonna, you know, reboot a lot of existing IP is what I imagine. But I also think, as we've seen with Avowed and Project Mara and, you know, Bleeding Edge, that they are invested in getting new IP out as well, and new experiences. And I talked about this on the last episode, and you know, I don't like to drink the Game Pass and Xbox Game Studios Kool-Aid too much, but I genuinely believe that their intention with Xbox Game Pass and Xbox Game Studios is to let teams make new ideas. Making teams not have to stress about the financial success of a game and making them more reliant on sequels, but instead allowing them to spread their wings, if you will, and get weird. Get weird with it.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny you bring that up. because completely agree with you on that. That's another benefit to what Microsoft has been doing and Game Pass, all that stuff. But I don't know if you remember the Twitter conversation that was happening between Dan Stapleton and Ryan McCaffrey a few weeks ago, and it was about Obsidian. And this was after the Bethesda stuff first went down, and their instinct was for Obsidian to basically now go help Bethesda, make Elder Scrolls 6. And I pushed back on that immediately. Like, absolutely not.
No.
And trust me, I love Ryan. Ryan, I love him to death. This is not anything against him in particular, but I pushed back on it because I want to see what a fully funded Obsidian that does not have to worry about anything except being creative and innovative can do with Avowed. Would I love for them to revisit Fallout New Vegas at some point and all that? Absolutely. But let's see what a studio like that can do with original content. That's more than anything, that's the kind of things that excites me about some of these acquisitions. Again, Double Fine as an example. Let's see what Tim freaking Schafer can do.
Let's go.
An idea in his head where all he has to worry about is making the game, and he doesn't have to do Kickstarter campaigns and go on do the what's the word I'm looking for? Go on the circuit, so to speak, and pitch his ideas to publishers. No, he's a part of Xbox. He has an idea. They go, we love it. Go crazy. Take your time. Make what you want to make. That's the kind of things that excites me potentially about the future of these acquisitions that they've done with some of these studios. So let's see, because again, what is it? Project Mara? Is that the one?
That's the kind of like hyper realistic psychological horror.
Yeah, well, I'm not thinking of it's, or is it the Ninja Theory thing?
It's the Ninja Theory thing, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
but my point remains. Ninja Theory would never have done that if they weren't a part of Microsoft and had the backing to do that.
No, that's not a finance. You don't look at that on paper, which a lot of these games are. It's a spreadsheet, and you say, all right, we're going to have these elements here, and therefore we can make X money from these elements incorporated here. We're going to have a games as a service component. There's all this boring math that gets in the way of the creative process. And then you have Hellblade with Project Mara saying, we're just going to make a game that tries to accurately replicate mental illness and like mental fear, and see like how scary that is for an individual. Like if you pitch that to Activision, no, hell no, Activision's not going to greenlight a project like that.
Yeah, agreed. The thing, and we don't have, I know you want to wrap the other thing, but I'll just say the one last thing. I want to see more risks being taken in gaming. I mean, we obviously see that in the indie space because they have to. That's how you stick out from the crowd. You got to take a risk as an indie studio. You can't just keep making the same stuff over and over. But again, bringing the Tim Schafers into it, bring in Compulsion Games into it, Obsidian like that. Let's see those creative minds be able to take a risk by doing something new in gaming. And this is what it's going to allow. Again, it's why the Bethesda thing, let's see Todd Howard having a fully funded idea, QA team behind him, the whole thing, what he can do. Beyond just making Starfield and obviously stuff with Elder Scrolls and all that. These are the kind of things that excite me about what Microsoft is trying to push in the space. And again, to bring it all the way full circle, it's still potential. It's not there yet. It's all ideas. We still have to see it actually in practice. But the fact that they even have the opportunity to do it is exciting.
Exactly. They still have a lot to prove. And I just want to believe that is their goal and that is their intention. And that is the reason all these people jump on, because you have these incredible minds like Tim Schafer. And what sucks about the process of making video games is it gets exponentially more expensive every year. And you have this legitimate fear when you're developing a game that, we can spend years on this. And then if it doesn't do well, if it doesn't sell well, if it doesn't perform, we're laying people off. We're shutting our doors down. We're done. And that's got to be a just scary, terrible feeling for a developer. And I guarantee that is influencing your game design, because you have these elements. You need to hit certain benchmarks. You need to follow certain trends to make a quote unquote successful game. And again, I always talk about drinking the Kool-Aid, and I get it. I understand that. Obviously I'm invested in the Xbox ecosystem, so obviously there's some bias there. But from a perspective of creating art and creating cool video game experiences, I really want to believe that's that is the future of Xbox Game Studios, and that is what is going to be delivered. Haven't seen it yet. I mean, I guess I'll reel that back a little bit. We've seen it slightly with Grounded. I would say Grounded is kind of our first taste on a small scale of
Right.
this is, to bring it back to the Ryan McCaffrey thing, this is a passionate team of about 15 people. And they were able to make a game that is completely unique. When that game was released, I couldn't believe we didn't have that setting in a game yet. Like that small Honey, I Shrunk the Kids kind of setting. I couldn't really wrap my head around the fact that that hadn't existed yet. And they were allowed to take this risk and make this really unique survival game with a small team. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that. Not everything launching from Xbox Game Studios is going to be huge AAA, quadruple A even releases, but I'm still going to support those smaller scale projects like Grounded, and I want to see more of those. In no world would I ever want to see the team from Grounded pulled from that project and forced to work on Elder Scrolls. Like
Agreed.
I don't ever want to see that. And I'm sure they would be heartbroken because that team loves what they're doing. That team is so excited. Sitting down and talking with those developers, they love their idea. They love the world that they've created, and they've loved the support, quite frankly, that they've gotten from Xbox and Xbox Game Pass. So that is one example of it in practice that I've talked to developers who have a lot of positive things to say about it, and I want to hear more because I want to live in a world where we have weird, cool, creative games again. Because Call of Duty's fine, Assassin's Creed is fine, but I don't need or even want a new Assassin's Creed or Call of Duty every year. I don't even want one every 2-3 years. I can go 5 years without a new Assassin's Creed and my life will be completely fine. But we're in this world where here's a formula that works. People are going to buy it, so we're going to keep putting it out, and that makes people super risk averse. And sometimes you got to take some creative risks. But I understand as a developer, sometimes when you take creative risks, your studio shuts down, and that's got to suck.
Yeah, look at Disintegration as an example, which I love Marcus to death, and I loved the idea of what Disintegration was and the concepts, the left hand, right, the whole thing. It didn't click. Unfortunately, it came out at a horrible time during the middle of the pandemic and just everything that was going on, and it didn't get the marketing and the shine that it should have. And unfortunately, now that studio is no more. But I'm happy that he took the risk, because I promise you, the ideas that Marcus Leto came up with Disintegration will show up in a game down the road somewhere. So he at least laid the groundwork for something else that will take advantage of the thing that he started. I hope it's him, obviously, but if it's not, at least the legacy of Disintegration can live on in something else. One thing, because I'm looking at the time, and unfortunately, I'll have a hard stop here in a few minutes, so I don't want to derail any more of the conversation of what we were saying. So I'll shut up with my ramblings, and we can finish it up here.
Cool. No, I really appreciate that, man. So we're gonna open it up to a few more questions at the end as we're exiting here. But Parris, it's been an awesome time sitting down and talking with you, dude. Like I said at the start of the show, you're someone I really respect on Twitter, because you actually put a little bit of nuance into what you're saying, which is it goes a long way for me, because I like a good spicy take. I love a good dank meme here and there, but that's so much of communicating online has become that you have to be on an extreme. You have to be all in on this platform or all against this platform, and that's just, especially with gaming, if you really do appreciate what gaming is and what gaming can be, that's not a good position to be in. So it's been awesome sitting down and chatting with you. If you want to one more time just let people know where they can find you. Obviously your Twitter tags on below your name there, but where can people hang out with Parris outside of this podcast?
Sure. You can find me at Gamertag Radio, co-hosting there with Danny Pena and Peter Toledo. I'm also on Kind of Funny, co-hosting on the Kind of Funny XCast with Snowbike Mike and Gary Witta. I have my own personal YouTube channel. You can find that here. It's just my name, Parris, Parris. And like I said, I'm on social media everywhere. It's at Vicious696, and I'm usually rambling about something. And I'll just say, I appreciate all the kind words. I really do. I'm glad we're finally able, schedule-wise, to make this happen so we can sit down and have this conversation. I love talking gaming. I love having nuanced conversations about the industry and the speculation and everything that goes into it. It's not even about being right or wrong or any of that stuff. Spicy takes are good, but they're just not all the time. Sometimes you just want to have a nice, fun conversation, and we definitely had one today. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Sometimes you need a little sweet with the spice. It can't only be spice. It's not good for your
Yeah.
bowels. But I appreciate everyone hanging out with us today. We're going to wrap this up, but thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys next week. Take care.